So, The Mandalorian Chapter 12, The Siege, directed by none other than Carl Weathers himself. So, let's get some overall thoughts and just reactions to this episode without spoilers for right now. And Adam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I had a blast this episode. I Carl Weathers. I don't know. I don't want to say I was surprised by what he was directing, but it was really great. It was a lot of fun. It felt like it had these almost like New Hope vibes, through some
Hmm.
of it. Um, I I I don't just dance around spoilers. Like I love seeing what's happened with Navarro since we've been there last. I love where that planet is at. Baby Yoda was Baby Yoda. It was very well done with the humor and everything like that. So I thought it was wonderful. So
Excellent. Jess, what did you think about this episode?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I think that some people were worried just because last week was just such a like an in your face, like people were really excited by the new content that we were getting, that it was again going to be kind of like episode 2 after episode 1, where it was just going to be a little bit hard to live up to it, but it was so different, it was so unique. Carl Weathers knocked it out of the park. The action shots, the cinematography was just fantastic. Yeah, I loved seeing Navarro and how things are changing. I think that a lot of times we don't often get to see the updates
hmm
after, after some big thing happens on a planet. It's nice to be able to go back and see things changing for the better. And I think that Baby was at his cutest that he's ever been. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's, man, this show, whatever they're doing it right, and they're doing it. They're doing it whether they've got the cast that was featured in season 1 or when they're relying on guest characters. Um, Man, each week it's just been so much fun.
yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't agree
it,
more. Um, I season one, I really, really loved the show. You know what I mean? Like I kept watching it over and over again. But I feel like now, like I'm just like in love with the show, if that makes any sense. I'm just kind of obsessed with it now, and just watching it at least three times each episode, and just so interested in what's going to happen next, and I feel like so connected with the characters and everything. This was probably one of my favorite episodes of the season, actually. And it kind of starts to answer some more questions that we had from season one, just like the previous episode started to answer some of those questions about the Mandalorians specifically, which we'll get into with Jess in a little bit. But yeah, I think aside from a few minor nitpicks that I had, I think that I thought this episode was one of the best so far. So
you're not gonna
bravo
nitpick
to
on
Carl
Jeans
Weathers.
guy, are you?
No, I'm not going to nitpick that because
Okay, I love Jeans guy.
I'm a Game of Thrones fan who did not care about there being a Starbucks cup in there at
Fair
all.
enough.
Didn't
Okay.
bother me one bit, so I will not complain about that. Um, but you know, let's get into some spoilers now. We're gonna jump into a section that I've kind of named and then renamed and renamed again. We're gonna go with jetpacks and bantha fodder. So just our highs and lows of the episode. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our jetpacks for this episode. That would be any high points you had, things that stood out that you really loved about the episode.
Well, starting at the top for me, I thought Baby Yoda's red wire, blue wire shtick was really funny. Uh,
Yeah.
it was almost Abbott and Costello a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
I thought it was, it was just a lot of fun, and it was a good dad moment. I love that Mando didn't get frustrated with it; he just kind of saw it. Well, it was worth a try.
Yeah.
um, I loved that part, and like I said before, I loved seeing the changes on Navarro. What Cara Dune and Grief Karga have done with that planet kind of feels like they've taken charge there themselves and kind of turned things around there. Uh, you know, I loved Grief Karga in season one, but seeing that, I don't know if maybe that was his vision to see Navarro turn around like that, because he felt like in season one he had this attachment towards Navarro, really loved Navarro, thought it was a great place, and so it's almost like he's being that change. It's almost like he's kind of the one that's behind where it's at right now, and I love that. They set up a school. They've cleaned up some of the riffraff. They're trying to kind of move the empire away, so that Navarro can prosper and be an anchor for trade in that region. I loved every aspect of what they were doing there.
Thanks, Adam. Jess, did you have
Yeah,
any high
I'll
points
echo
from this
that. I
episode?
just really, yeah, I definitely think that similarly, I really, we both just mentioned it, but I loved seeing Navarro. I loved seeing the little space school. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of
yeah,
anything that brings in, Star Wars has this beautiful mesh of the fantasticalness of science fiction and fantasy, and then the mundanity of the life that we all recognize. So I just loved seeing the school and um, Baby Yoda and the macaroons. It's just such a cute little thing. And no, I mean even something as simple as like I love all the details that come. I think that Jon Favreau and his crew are finding great ways to bring in all kinds of little tidbits about the culture. They really pack it full and really make storytelling a very efficient practice in this show. And so when you're looking at the school and you hear what the droid is saying and you're getting tidbits about how the current galactic capital is in Chandrila, which is accurate in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
that is the capital in the Aftermath trilogies at
Mm-hmm.
this time. And I love seeing all that, and that's all of the context that I'm just desperate for. I love that Grief Karga also has the moment where after Din says that he had a run-in with the New Republic, and he says they should just leave us alone. They should leave the Outer Rim alone. If the Empire couldn't control the Outer Rim, what makes them think that they can? Which again just kind of really goes to show the way that they operate, and all of that efficient storytelling is what I'm here for. But gosh, the list can go on of the number of jetpacks that I had.
Awesome. Um, I echo a lot of yours and Adam's as well, and I'll go ahead and run through mine here. Definitely, Adam, like you mentioned, that the moment with the wires and everything, it was for me. It had a baby Groot, had some baby Groot vibes to it from Guardians 2 and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that. Um, and just seeing the Mando and the child kind of, if they were, maybe it was soup or a drink or something they were eating or drinking together. Um, and you just saw Din kind of lift his helmet up just enough to be able to eat or drink whatever that was. I just like that little moment right there.
Mm-hmm.
Again with the macaroons, my wife was calling them that, and I was like, I don't even know what macaroons are. I just thought they were cookies, but so him, but it was like this was the only moment I think in this season that we see the child using the force, and it's to steal some cookies basically,
I
which I
thought
think is
they
he's
were
all about the
saving that for
I thought that
something
was
kind of big, and it
yeah.
turns
There
out it was for
there is
cookies.
one moment. There is one moment in The Passenger when but again, it's all about the food for him.
Mm-hmm.
When he
Mhm.
goes up to the glass and the first time that he's looking at the eggs, he puts his hands on the glass, and if you look really closely, you can see the eggs start to draw to
Like
him. So,
coming toward
Oh,
him.
does he?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
clearly
Okay.
it's just,
Yeah, it's
maybe
all
one.
about the food. Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
he's in survival mode, Um, but yeah, and I love the fact that the band is back together in this episode, that we get Grief and Kara and Din Djarin back together, working together. I want to see more. I'd love to see more of that. I know this is essentially a story about the Mandalorian and the child, but um, I like seeing all these characters together. I felt that it really dives further into Moff Gideon's plan, the Empire's plan, while still leaving some questions.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, we know there's
Like,
some
what is the plan?
cloning
you
possible. Yeah,
like,
um, and we see some possible clones there. I
Yeah.
mean, to me, they kind of looked like Snoke. I don't know if they are or not, or if it's going to tie into the sequel trilogy somehow, which I personally think would be awesome. I would love to see it connect to the Emperor's plan and, um, the sequel trilogy, Snoke and everything. I think that'd be cool. If it does its own thing entirely different from that, I'm cool with that too. But um, it kind of answers some questions a little bit, but also leaves some questions. But I thought it was very interesting too about it seems clear now that they were going after Baby Yoda because of the midichlorians. Um, and we'll get into that in our reference section here.
So real quick
But
before we
yeah.
jump farther into that, my idea for the plan, like originally when I saw the thing in the jar, it looked almost like the Snokes in the jar in
Hmm.
Rise of Skywalker. I got those vibes too.
Yeah.
But then at the end with the armor that they're looking at,
Right.
I start feeling like they're
Maybe
trying to
he's trying
create
to.
force users to have almost like
Yeah.
this group of
Elite army or something.
force using stormtroopers of some
Hmm.
I
death
mean, it would
troopers
not
with
surprise
force
me
powers.
considering it would not surprise me considering, we've not only seen Dr. Pershing
Hmm.
last season, but now we've got a couple more scientists, all of whom are wearing the Kaminoan
Hmm.
cloning symbol. And so it's like, okay, well now we've got these this army here.
Yeah.
Who exactly is the recipient of whatever this experimentation is about? Is it Snoke, Palpatine? Is
Right.
it? I was thinking, maybe Gideon, but also like, yeah, I
Hmm.
was I was thinking like they're setting up an army here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that would be utterly terrifying if it was a force sensitive clone army.
That's kind of what
Yeah.
I think that they're doing. I mean, that's a whole Legends thing right there.
Mhm.
Trying to imbue
Hmm.
regular people with force powers, and that's somewhere where I think I could see them taking that this story. And when you look at that, when you look at the armor at the end, I think that kind of fits. You know, they're trying to fill those sets of armor with force using people, but maybe they're having Dr. Pershing alludes to that, they're having trouble getting this to work. It's like the bodies won't
Hmm.
accept the blood, and they can only take so much blood at a time from the child without killing the child. They're trying to preserve that because that's almost like their supply of blood. Know, um, maybe Gideon has a Darksaber because he's going to lead this army of force using. So he has a Darksaber. Is kind of like the general of that army, and then his soldiers each have lightsabers. I don't know. It's that's kind of the vibes that I was getting at the end of there.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where this goes and what the answers are. I love that it did kind of answer things a little bit, but then still left a lot of questions open, and
Yeah.
that's always fun to speculate on those things for sure. Did you guys? I'll go through kind of what my bantha fodder from this episode was, just a couple nitpicks that I had, um, and these are just minor things, but the first one was when they with the whole scene with them like in the hallways of that old imperial base when they were kind of like I felt like when they were going through that after they had tried to basically blow the thing up. I felt like there was just a lot of really quick transition shots and they used the famous Star Wars wipes. Like I felt like it was just overused a little bit. Like they just kept wiping the screen and wiping and jumping to the next thing and the next thing. I think they could have taken a little more time and used less of those transitional wipes. Just because for me, it just takes me out of it a little bit. I think it was just overused a little bit. Um, and then the only other nitpick I had was they didn't really show the passage of time in this episode, at least that I noticed. I only watched it once. And I felt like the Razor Crest was like so quickly repaired that it was almost like just kind of not believable to me, that it was like pristine basically by the end of the episode. But those were just my two like little minor nitpicks. Did you guys have any bantha fodder from this episode? Negatives, nitpicks?
For me, I hate to say it, but like I didn't really have any nitpicks. and I don't know. I don't know. The Razor Crest didn't bother me so much, and I don't know, like season one because it was torn apart by Jawas, and then kind of space worthy. A few minutes later, that I don't know. That never really
but
bothers
they
me.
showed them repairing it though, and they showed that it took time and that,
Yeah,
it took a long time for them to do that. That's for me what the difference was,
yeah,
but
that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I just it didn't bother me. And I really can't think of. I watched it twice. I watched it a second time a little bit ago, and I really can't find anything that I don't like about this episode. I love this episode.
For me, I also did notice the quick wipe transitions
Okay.
through some of the action shots. Didn't bother me too much because I feel like the quick wipe is part of the aesthetic of Star Wars, especially because this big New Hope vibes that I actually kind of enjoyed it. I also think that like it I mean from a filmmaking point of view, it's clear that they were probably using the same hallway over and over
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
So, I
Um,
mean, these people have a big budget, but even they have limitations. So I thought that if they did have to, edit all those shots together to do it that way, which with the wipe was kind of appropriate. I also kind of think like I'm not really sure what purpose having the Mithril back was. I
It was yeah.
I
yeah.
He was almost just comic relief,
Yeah,
really.
pretty
he was
much, yeah.
he was comic relief, and don't get me wrong, he was played very well. I really I do not like it when people take their dislike for the characters and attach it to the actor because in
Oh
every
yeah.
circumstance we've seen characters that maybe aren't received very well, and then that's
Hmm.
translated to the actor. And even yesterday I was seeing some things on the
Oh
actor's
really?
wall.
I didn't see that. That's sad.
Just
It is.
one thing where somebody had
Oh
said you're
okay.
basically 2020 Jar Jar Binks, and it was like,
Uh,
okay, have we not learned anything about what it means to not bully the actors? I mean,
yeah. Right.
you don't have to like a character.
Seriously.
You don't have to like a character, but the character itself was played very well for what he was
Sure.
supposed to
Sure.
be. But my question then is, what exactly was his purpose, if not simply for comic relief, which is probably just what it was, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. But I figured that there might be something with the fact that we just got back those three big characters that we saw in season one plus Moff Gideon. Um, I was expecting, I don't know, maybe some kind of. Okay, I'm just gonna say Carl Weathers came out and made just one comment a while back about how Grief Karga might have some motivations that we don't know about yet. So as I watched this episode, I was really expecting some kind
Okay.
of maybe not betrayal at the moment,
Mhm.
but some kind of foreshadowing
Hmm.
to one of these characters being a little bit shadier. And so the fact that we had all three of them, and it kind of just feels like all three of them kind of just showed up just for the sake of showing up and showing how the town has progressed. I was just a little bit like, is there something there, or should there be something there in order to, um, as we're going into the second half of the season? Not really
Yeah.
sure, but that was just my
Mhm.
thoughts.
I feel that, and honestly, that's kind of how I felt about Frog Couple. I liked them being there, but it almost felt for me like maybe there needed to be something a little bit more. Why are they there? Instead of just point A to point B type thing. And so with Mithril, instead of just being comic relief, it does feel like there should be some other motivation for having him there, or maybe he has some other motivation other than just working off 300 some years of
His death.
debt.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying. I kinda land on the other side of it though, just because, like, those kinda things don't tend to bother me, like, when there's those characters in there, because I think with any movie, with any show, you're gonna have those kinda side characters who maybe don't have much more to them other than surface level, but then you get to your main characters, and those are the characters that you really see character development and, go beyond the surface level stuff with those characters. So that's something that really doesn't bother me personally, just for that reason. But But yeah, I get some people feeling that way about those characters, but it's just one of those things that doesn't bother me so much. But I think we are ready to go into our Suga segment where we talk about all the Easter eggs and references from this episode. So I'll start with the protocol droid being used to educate students on Navarro. I thought that was just really cool to have that in there, and I thought he just looked excellent. Just was so well. I mean, it seemed like it was practical. Maybe they actually built this thing. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, again, I'm having a hard time in season two determining what's real and what's not real because it all just looks so good. Um, so that was one thing that I noticed. And another one that we've mentioned already so far is just the shots and scenes that are similar to A New Hope, um, like the Imperial base set, looking like the inside of the Death Star, um, the targeting system and the ties, having that same feel as A New Hope and everything. I don't know if you guys noticed anything else that had the A New Hope vibes, but there was definitely a lot of references to A New Hope here.
I believe that Moff Gideon's Imperial ship is
Yeah.
introduced the exact
Mhm.
with the exact same shot as the opening of New Hope. So that was
Yep,
pretty cool.
absolutely.
I wish I was
It
better
just
at
really
pointing out
feels
Easter
like
eggs.
last
I suck at that.
last week. Well, I mean, I've watched some YouTube videos of other people who
Okay.
are also much better than me at
Fair
picking
enough.
things out. I did notice that one
Yeah.
though, but it's just fun because it just feels like last week was really tying Clone Wars and Rebels into this show, and now we've got the ties to the original trilogy and the sequel
Mhm.
trilogy coming in a little bit, and just like I mentioned with the holiday special, I feel so strongly that I watch this show and it just feels like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are just doing their very, very best to bring a kind of cohesion, not only to the franchise and the stories that are being told, but also kind of to the fan base. There's something for
Yeah.
everybody in the show. I love the references to the EU. I love that they're always so willing to bring in references to basically anything.
Mhm.
So kudos to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that this show does stand on its own, but it also connects to all these other things, Jess, that you mentioned at the same time, and it doesn't like overuse the references or just use them for the sake of being references. There's like kind of a purpose to it and everything. So I'm really digging that about the show. Another one that I didn't notice when I watched it, so when I watch it a second time, I'll have to pay attention to this. There's an IG-11 statue on
I
Navarro, I guess.
saw a picture of that on Twitter today. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I missed that one the first
Yeah.
time around. And then go ahead, Jess. Sorry.
No, that was sweet. Just a very nice callback.
Yeah, yeah, definitely for his sacrifice. Got to recognize that. And then I mentioned this a little earlier. A possible reference to midichlorians. I think Dr. Pershing said something about there was like M something or other. I don't know what the exact line was
His,
that he said because I missed it.
his M
But
count.
Mm-hmm.
M count, yeah, the M count, and
M
maybe
count. Yeah.
that's midichlorians. So,
I think so.
um, yeah. But did you guys notice anything else that I didn't, as far as the references go?
Uh,
Easter eggs, anything like
like I
that?
said, I'm terrible at picking out Easter eggs.
All right.
If it's not on Twitter
Um,
or like Jess said, if it's not on a YouTube video, then I'm hopeless at it.
yeah, sometimes I'll catch them, but sometimes it takes a couple viewings, and then sometimes I just rely on the the other people to do that for me. Um, well, let's go ahead and give our score for this episode. So, how many Beskar ingots would you give this episode out of 10? Jess, let's start with you. So, out of 10, what would you give this episode?
Oh gosh, some great answers to the questions that we had. Lots of room to grow. Great exploration of the characters that we loved last year. Great action. 8.5 out of 10.
Like
Solid episode. Yeah. Adam, what about you?
I'm probably at a 9 on this one. was reserving that 10 score, but it was a lot of fun for me this one. So 9 for me.
Yeah, Adam, I'm with you. I'm pretty. I try to use the 10 rarely, for something I feel is truly close to perfection. But yeah, I got to go 9 out of 10. Aside from the minor nitpicks that I had, this was one of my favorite episodes. I loved it. I love how it expanded upon things from the first season and started to give us more clues about what's going on here on the Imperial side of things and the Moff Gideon plan. And I just loved all the moments with the child in this episode and the band being back together and all the great action. So yeah, I got to go 9 out of 10 as well. So now that we've gotten our scores out of the way, do you guys have any predictions for what we might see in the next episode? Keeping in mind that this is the Dave Filoni directed episode. Jess, I'll start with you. Any predictions?
I mean, I think that we're going to see Ahsoka.
Is it time?
I'm very excited. So I mean, this is Dave Filoni's episode. Yeah. He's writing it. He's directing it. Ahsoka is his baby. We're getting Ahsoka.
We've heard that it's called the Jedi. So
well, no,
I don't know if that's like for real, but we've heard that.
Take a look at this. Take a look at the source that announced. I don't really think that it is. I wouldn't
be surprised either.
I would be very shocked.
Yeah.
Also, we've had leaks for the other ones, and not a single one of the last 4 episodes has been correct. So,
True.
Which actually, any thoughts on why did they call this episode the Siege when we've just had the Siege of Mandalore this year? So we're already kind of thinking about that. A siege is not 4 people infiltrating a base.
Right. Yeah, that's curious.
I'm just not sure. I'd really like to ask what the point was of that name was. But no, I think that we'll see Ahsoka, and I have to believe that we've got a tracker on the Razor Crest now. So
yeah.
Do with that what you
I don't
will,
know. That's a good question about the episode title. Maybe it has something to do with the army that he's preparing. Maybe Gideon is preparing for a siege, and we just don't know quite his plan yet. So I don't know, but that's a good question. If it is referring to what Din and Cara and Greef did, then it's not much of a siege. But yeah,
maybe it will make sense later on.
Maybe.
Adam, any predictions for next episode?
I don't know. I'm kind of with Jess. So that might be Ahsoka time. Because Din said he couldn't make it to Corvus on, where the Razor Crest was at that point, but it's fixed, so he can now. So it might be time.
Yeah, I'm almost 99.9% sure that we're gonna see Ahsoka in the next episode. Dave Filoni, loves the character, and I think it makes perfect sense for him to direct that character in that episode. And that you mentioned the tracker on the Razor Crest. I think that what might happen is the Mandalorian finds Ahsoka, but maybe Moff Gideon, of course, tracks them to where they are, and maybe we'll see a Darksaber on lightsaber action. Which I would be very excited about. So
and remember, Bo-Katan's out there looking for that Darksaber too. So.
Well, what's funny is that it'll be, if that's true, it'll be Ahsoka's second time dueling the Darksaber.
Yeah,
she did all the way back in Clone Wars Season 4.
Right.
Yes, indeed. So, a week from today, we'll be talking about what happened in Chapter 13.